Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Noling podcast. It's KVV here. I am substitute teaching once again, but I got a great crew tonight. I got my man, Big Randy is here. Big Randy, how are you tonight?
I'm great. It's fun to have a substitute teacher in here. You know, I think we might watch a movie in class today. You know, see who can sneak off to the bathroom during class. It's wonderful to be here, though, KVV. Thank you for having me on your program.
It's a NCAA tournament time, so it's like they'd always slide the television into the room big and let people watch some tournament games. Probably young kids don't know it.
Somebody's excited here. People are watching on the video podcast. KVV's got fireworks and everything going on.
The voice you hear there is Cody. Cody is also here tonight. Mr. Prince McBride, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you stepping in as lead substitute teacher here. I made a joke before we got fired up that you never know which direction substitute teachers go. Some come in and follow the exact lesson plan that was left for them, but you told us, no, we're going to have fun. So I'm excited, buddy.
No, we're not going to talk about a bunch of sorry to Solly, but not going to talk about a bunch of strokes gain data stuff. This is a holy vibes a podcast tonight. But
perfect. So we're going to turn our attention. This is going to be your Live Miami preview show. I'm so excited, Kevin. Kidding, of course. I'm sure we got to pay some bills.
Yeah, we do got to pay some bills. Guys, tonight's show is brought to you by Titleist, specifically the new Vokey designed SM10 wedges. Guys, we all got fit for SM10 wedges, and I got to say, I'm slowly coming around, hitting some good shots with them. I'm really feeling pretty good. You know, we went out there earlier this year, and we learned kind of everything about went into creating the best wedges in the game and making each new generation better than the last. You often hear Bob Vokey say that he has the best R&D department in the world in PGA Tour. I got a lesson from Bob Vokey, by the way, when we were out there. Pretty helpful. This week in Houston, 50% of the sand, lob, and gap wedges in play were a Vokey design. The winners of the last 5 events on tour have also played Vokeys. It's that constant feedback loop with so many of the best wedge players in the world that directly leads to all the improved performance you'll experience with the SM10. One example, lower ball flight. Cody, you could probably speak to this, right?
Yeah, I love it. I didn't realize this because when you're talking about wedges, you're always like, you'd think that like you got to have height to the ball because for some reason that's going to maximize spin. But really you're thinking about like, this is going to land softer. I'm going to be able to control it. But no, man, you want to be able to get that ball down low.
Yeah. The new SM10 wedges produce that controlled lower ball flight that tour pros love from a wedge. Lower ball flight translates into better control, tighter dispersion, and shorter birdie putts. Big, I know you're making a lot of birdie putts this year. Just going at pins.
Shit ton of birdies.
I love that.
I've made so many birdies down under. Yeah, I won't spoil
really
too much, but we are tracking way ahead of our 2023 schedule.
Hell yeah. Well, that's a critical part of hitting it close is keeping it close. Go to Vokey.com to learn more in a fitter near you and who can help you dial in your flighting, your gapping, and your grinds with the new Vokey SM10s. Guys, we have a Texas Children's Houston Open winner. Cody, I know this is down home in your state. Stephen Jaeger is the winner and his first win in 135 starts on tour. Pretty strong year for Jaeger so far this year. He actually finished T3 at the Farmers Insurance Open this year, but struggled a little bit, let that one slip away. I'm struggling a little bit to decide whether Jaeger is the story here or whether Scottie Scheffler is the story. It was Scheffler was looking to win 3 straight starts. It would have been the first guy on PGA Tour to do that since Dustin Johnson did so in 2017. But if you didn't watch, Scottie just missed out on getting into a playoff with a pretty gross-looking putt down the stretch. Just to recap the action in case you missed it, Jaeger made 4 birdies and a bogey on the front 9 to get to 12 under through 9. And then he kind of was, I don't want to say put it in total neutral because he was clearly trying to make some birdies, but he made 9 straight pars on the back 9. Back 9 was playing, I think, about 2-3 strokes tougher than the front 9. So clearly, you had to kind of hang on for dear life a little bit. Scheffler never really had his A game this week, particularly with the putter, but he did have a chance to get in the playoff. He came into the 18th fairway needing to make a birdie because he was at 11 under, and he hit an absolute dart at the pin. ShotLink had it at 6 feet 11 inches. And then he stood over the putt and just completely decelled and sort of pulled it way low.
But like me, can't be having that.
Let's speak to the decel action here. I know that you commented, you basically told on yourself in the Slack. What does it feel like to completely come under a putt like that in the
Well,
big moment.
I've never had, definitely not that big of a moment for me ever. I couldn't imagine doing that on the 72nd hole when, you got to make that putt to get into the playoff. But first of all, like, even if you're going to decel, obviously a sign of some nerves there, you just got to get it to the hole. He didn't even get it there. So, decels are tough. It's one of the first things that jumps out when you are nervy. I am the king of this. There's videos after videos after videos. If you go to our YouTube page of me just decelling on every single 5-footer I think I've ever looked at. It was actually DJ last summer. We're playing golf and I was playing awesome, hitting the ball amazing at one of the best golf courses I've ever been to. And I just could not make a putt. And DJ literally came over and grabbed me by the shoulders, just like I hope Ted Scott does to Scottie. And it's just like, dude, you are decelling your putter so bad. It's like, stop thinking about it and just get the putter head through the ball. And since then, I've been it's been huge for me. And I hope Teddy's doing that to Scottie, because he definitely couldn't. He didn't roll the rock today, which is surprising because it's Easter Sunday and that's kind of what this day is known for.
Before we get to Scottie, I think it'll be worth discussing a little bit. I just want to pause on Jaeger a little bit. Born in Germany, moved to the United States when he was 17. Never really been a particularly great tour player. Kind of lost his card a couple times. But in the last couple years...
Whoa. What are you talking about, buddy? Just because he's not out there winning on the PGA Tour doesn't mean that he's not a great tour player.
Well, listen,
there's only 125 guys in the world who get a claim that they have a PGA Tour card.
Which I didn't say he wasn't a great golfer, Cody. I said he wasn't a great tour player. Please don't interrupt the substitute teacher when he's trying to make a point about I'm trying to hold some standards here for TC and Solly. There's no way that if they were here, they wouldn't refer to him as a complete mule. So,
well, I agree with you on that. He definitely is, but he was you want to talk about, I think he's second or third or something like that on the all-time Korn Ferry nationwide,
definitely
best by Nike,
killer.
Whatever tour we want to call it by. It's been truly phenomenal. I know he's come up a couple times and been sent down, but you talked about him coming over from Germany when he was 17 years old. He actually came over as a foreign exchange student.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he came over to Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's where his
American Pie situation,
where his host family was out of. He ended up going to, I think it was called Baylor Private School or something like that. I don't know if it was a all boys school or anything like that, but they ended up winning a state championship with him on the team. He grew up clearly playing golf, was really into it, came over as this foreign exchange student, rolled that into the state championship, into a scholarship at University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Chattanooga choo-choo, man. KVV, we used to go there all the time when the Grizzlies would play in the national championship game.
That's right. Fond memories of Chattanooga, stumbling around there after a few too many brewskis.
He is a mule, though, but he's one of those guys that we've always said, once he gets up there, hopefully he figures it out, and he's put on a ton of speed this year.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He, to give him credit, this is, partially, I'm going to give Adam Schupak some credit here because he kind of pointed this out, but, he hired Mike Carroll of Fit for Golf. You see Mike a lot on Twitter and stuff talking about how, hey, you're getting older, you can get faster. There's no reason why you shouldn't sort of be able to pick up speed. And you usually think that's kind of for amateurs and for golf Twitter people like myself. I did the app. And it did help, but a tour player, and Stephen Jaeger picked up 13 yards off the tee, which is a shit ton. So he's really kind of decided I'm taking whatever left of my prime very seriously. Also hired the sports psychologist Julia Ilion, who has worked with Wyndham Clark and Max Homa. He's clearly just made a leap, which you got to admire. Big. What do we feel about we talked a little about the mules uprising. They're just tired of being dismissed in this stuff. Are the mules having a moment?
For sure they're having a moment. I played public defender to the mules last week. I'm pro mule, right? More tournaments like this, guys. You never know when it's their week. Could be a life-changing week, which it was for Stephen. I wanted to backtrack real quick and for points. One, foreign exchange students are awesome. I was never one myself, but my family had one. We had
really? That's awesome.
Switzerland. Yeah, when I was in 4th grade, a girl from Switzerland came over, stayed with us for the year, and we're still in touch with her. We still communicate. We've seen them. She's come back over to visit with her family now. It's a wonderful thing. It's a great cultural thing. KVV, I was going to ask you, I have met Stephen Jaeger, And I don't know if you remember at DJ's birthday party back at Sweetens Cove. Really, maybe the first time you and I played golf together.
That's
a
right.
very famous case of your shanks.
Stay tuned. You'll hear
Stephen
more about
gave
that.
us a ride back to Stephen gave us a ride to the Airbnb one night. I don't know if you were in that car or not. Yeah.
Why was he there? Because he knew DJ, or like what was? How did he end up?
Yeah, he knew DJ. He knew some of those tour guys. You know, I didn't really even know who it was at the time. But he gave us a ride back to the Airbnb. So I'm not. You might have been in that car too.
Probably I was.
Clearly,
I didn't know who it was. He might have all these years been like, oh yeah, I remember that time I rode with KBB, and I'm just been like, oh yeah, this mule, whatever.
I know.
Well,
so I guess that's all. Yeah, that's all. Neither here nor there. Yeah, the mules. I don't know. I don't have anything new or exciting to add to the mule debate, I guess. But it is, you know, it's a good thing for Stephen. It was fun seeing his wife and young son there on the green. I want to ask you guys, if I may, if you're Scottie Scheffler, or if you put yourself in Scottie Scheffler's shoes, you know, there was a conversation going around. Is he better off not winning this week, so he's not carrying the burden of a 3-tournament win streak into Augusta? How do you guys? It's a little bit superstitious, you know. Do you like going into a big event on a very long winning streak, or is it nice to kind of get that disappointment out of the way and he can refocus?
I think honestly it would have been better. I get the superstition argument, but it would have been better if he like just completely drilled that putt right in the middle. And he was like, yeah, my putting woes are fixed. I feel like now he gets to think about a whole week of like, whoa, wait a minute. Like I thought that this whole like putter mallet thing situation was fixed. I thought we were good. And now the doubt has to sort of creep into his mind. I don't think it would have been super great to be like, oh man, I got to win yet again for the 4th time. The kind of emotional burden of that would be a little bit heavy, but man, all of a sudden missing, especially when we looked on Saturday, when he 3-putted from about 6 feet on the 15th hole there, I think, or excuse me, the 18th hole. And then he kind of made a mess of a bunch of short putts this week. And I don't think that's really good vibes going into some of the slickest greens in the whole schedule this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, KBB. I just don't. The streak would have been something. I guess I didn't think about that. I think overall he's going to walk away from this week being like, man, I probably, you know, I missed some putts that I probably should have made. I don't really think he's thinking at all about like, oh, I could have got this other, you know, win and keep this streak alive. I think it would have been, if he was playing this coming up week in San Antonio, would have been a completely different story. But now I think he takes this week off. He's not playing in San Antonio. He goes and fine tunes his putter again, which even with those short misses that we saw specifically that stood out yesterday and then today on 18, he gave himself like, it just really wasn't the complete like ball striking tournament that we've seen of Scottie Scheffler. Like he was definitely loose out there. And when you shoot like his opening round 65 and like, oh, okay, here we go. He's going to do it. I would say from like where he started the week till now, disappointment, but overall, like I think he's firmly on to Augusta. He's comfortable at Augusta, and like, you know, him going back up here to Dallas and like hanging out with Rick and fine tuning this stuff, I think is the best thing that he's going to do. I truly don't think it matters as somebody like Scottie. Now, having said that, we do need to put like probably jump up and down and be like all the people who out there who are trying to compare him to Tiger, like Tiger closed.
Tiger would not have missed that putt on the low side, decelerating, like looking. Yeah, that's the kind of iron shot that Tiger would hit, but also he would close the deal to at least like get into a playoff in that moment. So, right, look, the Tiger stuff is hard because like statistically, yes, like Scottie is the best iron player since Tiger, but it's just silly, but like to even mention that they're a similar player because they're just not close to a similar player because of so much of golf is rolling the putts in. Like if you can't do that, you can never be like a truly like top 5 player of all time. And so like, is Scottie going to be that? No, I think that's fair to say. Like he's never going to all of a sudden putt immaculate for the rest of his career, but he's still like truly the best ball striker that we've seen in 15 years or so. I think that's a fair thing to say. It's just when you start putting the statistics next to each other, people lose their minds and be like, oh, this dude is no Tiger. Well, yeah, of course. But like, statistically, he kind of does. But I said we weren't going to talk about statistics. We're just, you know, big as the king of feels and vibes, and he's said that he just didn't pass the eye test. So this is another win for the eye test. I feel like, you know, this is big. This moment didn't hold up to that.
Well, yeah. Listen, I'm having a bit of a personal revolution on Scottie, or an evolution, I should say. I think it was clear today. He looked like he had, I don't know what, his C game. Like he didn't he didn't look. Even if he would have snuck into a playoff and somehow ended up winning the thing, like it wasn't a dominating performance. Some whiffs of even a crowning down the stretch. I was rooting for. I found myself rooting for, though, because I'm craving a true standard setter, standard bearer on the PGA Tour. Somebody that the other guys have to go chase down, right? Unequivocally. I think it's a good thing for the sport for Scottie Scheffler to be the dominant best player in the world and to go collect a ton of tournaments, because I want to see how guys, you know, like JT and Spieth and some of these guys, we complain that, you know, what are they doing? They're not winning enough. Like, I want to see them react to that. And like, hey, you guys have one of your peers, a fellow Texan in Spieth's case. He's out here playing, you know, perhaps I made a point several weeks ago, you know, if Scottie were to get to like 6 or more victories on the PGA Tour, I think that's the most non-Tiger win a single season, outside of course, VJ's unbelievable season. What was that, 20 years ago or so? So I kind of want that, just because I want to see what it does and what it forces some other guys to do. And so I guess from that standpoint, I was disappointed he didn't collect win today. But I think it is still impressive that he can show up and, you know, not have his best game, not have his A game, and still be right there in contention coming down the stretch. It's very impressive. Yeah, you know, as we look to Augusta, he's certainly going to be a strong favorite. I'm curious how. I don't think that putt will have really any effect on him. It might just be his putting overall, but yeah, I'm coming around on Scottie. I guess that's the big headline news. Like I think he's good, and he makes him being dominant, I think, makes the game more interesting. And I guess I find myself rooting for that.
Well, you hear it here on Easter. Big has said that Scottie has risen in his eyes.
Yeah.
Guys, speaking of down the stretch, I feel like, you know, Alejandro Tosti was certainly a super fun and compelling character in this. You know, Tosti is someone who I'm only kind of familiar with, but listening to the Shotgun Start, this is sort of my first real exposure to him as a true character. He is, you know, if you're not watching, he's about 5'6" and he hits it a freaking mile. I mean, it's like probably the littlest guy to be able to pack a shit ton of power since Ian Woosnam. He's just like in a sport where everybody kind of looks like a vice principal in a Midwestern like town. Alejandro is like a lot of fun to watch. Like he's constantly apparently like getting into, you know, shouting matches with rules officials. He and Tony Finau had sort of a very icy incident earlier this week where they, you know, would barely speak to each other because they were kind of annoyed and arguing over who was away on a putt. You know, he made a bunch of shit ton of birdies and was right in it. He made an incredible up and down and gave like the full like professional wrestler fist pump like this week, and he's tied for the lead going into 18, and then he just bails way right on his drive and has to kind of hit a blind shot way up over the trees and kind of over the corner of the grandstand, and it finds kind of the edge of the green, but he hits kind of a sloppy chip and can't make it and falls back. I would have really, with Scottie not going to make it, I would have loved to see like a Tosti Jaeger, which sounds like a nice drink, a Tosti Jaeger playoff, but we didn't get that. It would have been fun to see. I doubt Tosti's in the Masters. I haven't looked, but it would have been fun to see Tosti in the Masters. I hope he's like kind of a, you know, a dude who's hanging around for a while, because he's super fun. I mean, he's had an interesting life. He's from the same town as Lionel Messi in Argentina. He grew up kind of riding the bus from the time he was 8 years old, just, you know, across town to the golf course. I'm trying to imagine like putting my 12-year-old on a Baltimore City bus and telling her like, yeah, go practice at the town and then come back later tonight. That's you know, that takes a little bit of courage for a kid to do. So a lot of fun. I just, you know, the Shotgun Start has kind of detailed some of these. I don't want to steal too much from them, but like these Tosti Tales things. They had a great anecdote earlier this year about how when he got his car to the Corn Ferry Tour Finals, he chugged an entire bottle of champagne during the ceremony while Jay was like walking around, and then he chucked the empty bottle of champagne into the middle of the lake. So that's just an awesome character. We need more characters, guys, in this game, I guess.
Characters welcome for sure. I'm right there with you. It was the probably my favorite thing of the weekend. Just watching a lot of golf this weekend. I'm all for somebody that's not out there to make friends, and I think that's totally apparent not only with his actions with Finau and whose ball was away on Saturday. It was a whole not really a kerfluffle, but I think it was instructive. The Golf Central guys did a good job of breaking it down. Tosti's a rookie on tour. Finau, a very established, liked veteran, and Tosti kind of did not back down at all and kind of challenged him. And for anybody to do that is not a small thing, I guess. Listen, this is by far his best result of the year. So I'm not sure how much we're going to see of him week to week. It would be great if he got on a heater and really played well over the next couple months. But we need more guys like him. It just makes watching golf more fun. The passion, the emotions, the ups, the downs. He's got a very checkered past. I think they were saying his college coach at the University of Florida was like, he's definitely not out there to make any friends. Like he comes from humble beginnings. He wants to be the best player he can be, and that's it. And I kind of respect that. It's a little bit of a bit. I'm always asking for guys to be more competitors out there. We can leave the friendships off the course. But I really do think there is a little bit to that, right? If I'm just a fan watching the golf, I want to see competition. I want to see guys who don't particularly like each other, who bring out, these emotions and these passions in their fellow competitors. Like, I think that makes the entertainment product, quote unquote, a lot better. So I love what Tosti was about this week, and I hope we see more of it.
Guys,
I think hold on. I got
Sorry.
a couple things for you, and I think you're going to enjoy this on Tosti.
Please do.
This is where I love Alejandro Tosti. I'm going to get to a story about him at the end of this, but this is one of those things where I think for the PGA Tour, if you had Scottie Scheffler going out there and playing Scottie Scheffler golf and being the ball striking machine and making the putts that he needed to make, and you have a character like Alejandro Tosti nipping at his heels, yapping him up everywhere he goes, just like we saw yesterday with Finau, like that is exactly where people fall in love with it. And my thing with Alejandro today is that he didn't, he's a good villain, and he's always kind of been that because he's been down on his, he's not cut from the same cloth, and it's not because he's from South America or anything else like that. He's just kind of always been the outsider. And from Tosti Tales, and I give credit to Brennan and Andy for highlighting some of this, but I've actually played with Tosti, and I kind of have my own
more.
I have my own Tosti tale. So going back, and this is where it's kind of tied back into the Masters and Augusta National. He was the runner-up, I think, in 2014 or 2015 at the Latin America Amateur Championship, in which he should have won. He was winning that event, ended up losing in devastating fashion. I think to a Dominican player. But that year, the Latin America Amateur Championship was hosted in Argentina, and I remember it was devastating to him. The next year, it was at Costa de Campo, and I, used to go down to Costa de Campo in the DR all the time, and
with Drake even.
Yeah, I spent time with Drake there, and MJ, by the way. But Alejandro came and he was playing a practice round at Costa de Campo on Teeth of the Dog for the Latin America Amateur Championship, and this was like either right after his freshman or sophomore season at University of Florida. And he's just a little guy, and he's kind of, put on a little bit of weight now, probably from drinking beers and bottles of champagne. But then he was like, he was like a little bulldog. He's a fit dude, and he absolutely bombs the golf ball, and he did it then. That's something that stuck out with me so much. But we get to the 15th hole on Teeth of the Dog, and it's like a 370-yard par 4. But you can go. There's a route where if you hit it, you can drive the green, and there's runoff behind the green, but you basically have to carry it all the way up to the green, all the over ocean. and nobody ever takes it on because you have to have like a 320 carry. And Alejandro gets up there, and of course this is a practice round, and he like just doesn't care. He would take driver everywhere and all day, and he was like probably like 6 or 7 under if he was counting so far in this round. Like truly some of the best golf that I've ever seen in my life. And he goes up there, tees the ball super low and just pounds this drive. And it is dead in line with the pin going straight towards the green. And there's like this big rock wall directly in front of the green that's protecting it from ocean spray. And the ball lands and hits one of those rocks. It bounces probably 50 yards directly right into the ocean. It's a practice round.
Yeah.
And Tosti sees, like, as soon as the ball hit the rock and he sees that it's going into the ocean, literally takes his driver and just tomahawks it straight out into the ocean. He's starting the Latin America Amateur Championship like the next day and just yucked his driver. As there's no way you could go out there and get it. No way at all. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Up until that point, he had been like, he didn't get really too chippy or anything else like that. But there's like, there's a lot of the Spanish speakers don't realize, like, they miss a putt and, one of us will miss a putt and we're like, we might let a bad word, a cuss word go or something like that. But we usually say it under our breath. The Spanish speakers have this habit of like thinking that like, oh, none of these people speak Spanish, so we can just rip out whatever we want. And the rest of the tournament, I remember because it was broadcast, like part of these rounds are broadcasted on ESPN. Yeah. He was cussing in Spanish so loud. I was shocked. Anyway, he ended up finding a driver from somewhere. And I remember always being like, thinking back on it, he did not win that year. He was the favorite going in, and I don't even think he was in like the top 10, but following him a little bit through the rest of his college and amateur days. And I think that like he made it to either to the finals or semifinals of the amateur one year. Like he's a very, very established amateur player, won a ton in college, and somebody that, like, if there was PGA Tour U then, when he was coming out of college, he would have been in PGA Tour. Now he's 27 years old.
Yeah, he's a little
like
older.
He's not a young kid. And it's taken him a long time to get here. He's played PGA Tour Latin America. He came up and, played multiple seasons on Korn Ferry Tour just to get to this rookie year. And a lot of it is because his fire, this passion that is a good thing, also is his biggest detriment at times.
Yeah. That was lovely. I think this has got to be the only pod that has both a personal Stephen Jaeger anecdote and the Alejandro Tosti anecdote today.
That?
So we're just breaking news all over. Big, go ahead.
I got well, Cody, I looked up while you were telling that story. So it was 2015 where he lost by a stroke to Matias Dominguez of Chile, and that was the inaugural year. So to die a bow on that, I was thinking of this while I was watching him today. Are either of you guys hockey guys by chance?
I wish I was a hockey guy, but I've just never been able to do it.
Well, there's a guy named Pat Verbeek who had like one of my favorite nicknames of all time. He was called the Little Ball of Hate. And I would love for Tosti to be relevant enough where we can dub him the Little Ball of Hate out there. Some strong, Cody, as you're saying that, some strong like Spencer Levine vibes I'm picking up from our guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of Spencer. I could see that, but also I think the easiest one, and I've thought about this every single time I think of Alejandro, is he reminds me so much of Patrick Reed. And it's just like that, dog eat dog, like kind of the underdog. We're fighting for everything we got down here. They have hell of a short games. They can absolutely pound the ball. And like Patrick's always kind of had that, like, I'm not part of the cool kid club, so I'm going to do this. But there's also both like accusations out there of like cheating, stealing, like all this stuff. Yeah. And it just kind of these myths that are going to continue to be there for Patrick and Alejandro. Like they're just going to continue to grow with them over time.
Well, I hope he continues to be relevant on the scene, because I never really imagined how much I would miss the villains and the malcontents who went to live. But I do realize that is an essential part of my sports fandom, is wanting people to contrast against the perfect gentleman. And so when I think about getting the players back together again, it's mostly because I want to see like some conflict. I want to see some tension. Guys, what did we think about Memorial Park? I want to sort of pivot to that. TC was saying obviously last week that this place slaps. There was some sort of criticism amongst our crew about whether it was, a little bit too green, a little bit too overseeded, but I really liked it. I thought a place that can be a public course that can test the pros and have like a shit ton of AM rounds. I'm all in on that kind of thing. What are your thoughts? Cody, have you ever played Memorial Park?
I've played Memorial Park twice. Kev, I absolutely love it. And I don't want to dump all over your takes here, but I think this is one of those things where we got in this conversation during the players as well, is that here in Texas right now, we're right at this weird part of the season where, I have Bermuda grass. The majority of golf courses that I play have Bermuda grass. The issue is that it is coming out of dormancy right now.
Yeah.
So if Memorial Park was not overseeded, it is not the brown dormant Bermuda that everybody is envisioning that it could possibly be. It would be the patchiest, nasty. There would be bare spots all over the place just because we're not quite hot enough yet for that Bermuda to truly take root and fire up again. So I love the grass. I thought it played and looked awesome. We could talk about maybe.
Please feel free to dump over my takes. I'm not an agronomy person. I don't give a shit at all about any of that stuff. Like, you can tell me that it was good or bad. Whatever. I'm just throwing it out there because our guy TC was talking about it.
Yeah, I think it's just a weird. And I know they're happy to be like back in this time period, but it's just a weird calendar wise. And that's just when you talk about like grass and people in the north, will probably think of this and be like, man, if you got bluegrass and rye, it's not an issue because as soon as the snow's gone and it starts to warm up a little bit, it takes fire and you're right back in it. But when you got Bermuda and it's just sitting there dormant, like it takes quite a bit of heat in order to get it to fire again. So I'm happy that it is overseeded. I will say this is that it played a lot firmer than I thought it was going to be. And I've been lucky enough to play it in the fall when it wasn't overseeded. So this is 2 years ago, when it was still a fall event. So it was just normal Bermuda. And when it was a fall event, they played it as Bermuda. And it was before it went completely dormant. And I got the opportunity to play it when it's been overseeded. And I'm shocked both times, like how firm they can get an overseeded course there. It's such an awesome layout. Like Doak End, don't everybody forgets this, but Brooks Koepka also gets some kudos there as well.
Which I don't understand how Brooks ended up being the co-designer of that. Like, did he what was it that made Doak like partner with him? I mean, this is talking about a Florida guy through and through. What's he doing designing a Houston golf course?
I don't know. I have no clue what it was, but there's a lot of weird backroom deals that the tour does all the time to get people certain sponsorship deals or anything else like that. Maybe Brooks stood up one day in a pack meeting or something like that and is like, and I'm gonna get into course design, and they went with Houston. Who knows?
I would love to see Doak. I don't know if this could ever host a major. Maybe it could. Maybe he could bring a PGA here or something. No, it just doesn't have the infrastructure or what.
Yeah, it truly is. So Memorial Park is a big park in downtown Houston, and it's right. The golf course is right next door, and like the driving range is, it's so cool because you talked about like it's open to the public, and it truly is. Like Houstonians can go, and probably not tomorrow because they're still trying to charge a lot of money, but in a couple of weeks they'll probably go, and locals can play it for under $50. Outsiders can play it for $100 or something like that, and this is a tour course that it's phenomenal. It has some of the best green complexes I've ever seen. But the driving range is sick because it's a double-decker driving range because it's like it's built for like locals to go out there and like pound balls,
Hell yeah.
Like
I would love to see the US. I would love to see tour pros lined up on a double-decker driving range hitting off mats. Give me more of that, please. Come on.
But everything around
chaos
is not enough to host, something big like that. And it's part of the reason why, like the Chevron Championship on the LPGA side, Memorial Park is Houston's, like it's their, not only their muni, but it's like their gem, and they have champions and they have all these other like, very nice private clubs, but everybody in Houston is very prideful of that. And that's part of the reason why the Chevron couldn't go there. is they didn't have the space available even for a women's major.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Big, I'll ask you this question. Amal Yannick listener has this question. Why shouldn't Houston be then an elevated event? Like, it's the same spot in the schedule as the match play. Great course, big market. Can we at least get an elevated event?
Listen, you're asking the wrong guy to break down why things are or are not elevated events. But yeah, wise, it would be a fantastic. Aren't they called signature events now? That's part of my whole beef is like, well, literally nobody knows what they're called. Like Rory doesn't exactly know what they're called anymore. But that's part of the problem. I think as a golf course, it's certainly upper echelon for PGA Tour tracks, in my opinion. So from that standpoint, I think it would be very deserving. But I'm sure, Texas Children's Hospital is probably maxing out their advertisement
right there,
budget as is.
This is the first year of having them on board, though. We could go back, and the Astros Foundation's got all the money in the world, let alone that family.
Yeah.
I think to like get around the question, I guess, is that I think they're just happy to be in the spring now. And we didn't have this event last year. Like Tony Finau was the defending champion. And that was an event that was played 2 years ago in the fall. I think they're lucky that they got the spot that they did in the spring, which who knows, but I'm sure part of killing Austin and the match play event had to do with Houston wanting to come back to the spring. Yeah. And then, I think what they probably want is that, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I always thought the coolest thing in the world was this event, like the week prior to the Masters. And I remember Phil everybody would be like, why is Phil playing in Houston, man? He's like, I love playing the week before the Masters. And it was at a different golf course at the time, and they moved it to Memorial Park. But there's a ton of similarities between, the green complexes themselves in Houston and Augusta National. Not so much the rest of the course, because you can basically bomb it wherever you want. But it has some of the coolest par threes I think I've ever seen. Like, I actually want to bring the NLU crew. I think it would be a really fun place to hold and shoot one of our videos, because 15 is so sweet. I've played it when it was back left and when it was like right up in that front, which gave everybody fits yesterday. It's such a severe false, like a runoff on that left-hand side down to the water. And this is the first time that I've ever seen like that thick of a strip of grass there protecting it. Because every other time I've been there, it's like, oh, if it's running down there to the left, it's going in the water. There's nothing saving it.
Yeah. That was super fun. I love seeing 120 some yard hole tournament tour pros. Just see them like aghast and like upset at how dare a wedge not stop and spin and get tight to the hole. So
the same thing, the changes that they made on 17 and moving that tee box back up because they want people to try to go for it. Now, kind of shame on the PGA Tour they put, I don't know, there's backboards and grandstands like completely encompassing it. And I understand you want to have people there, they can watch these cool big bombing drives and stuff come in. But yeah, it's a cool place, man. And it's like, it's so special, the fact that anybody can go out there. It reminds me a lot, Big, of like, when we were playing Woking and there was like a public park kind of interwoven, because you see people just out there like walking, and like it's exactly what you would kind of expect from and want from municipal golf. And the fact that the city of Houston has this, and like Doak went out there and like brought everything he possibly can to maximize this property is like so cool.
Well, guys, the television networks may not have given this co-billing, but I feel like this the Ford Championship presented by KCC sort of deserves co-billing, at least on this podcast. Nelly Korda wins her third straight LPGA event. That is the first time that's happened on the LPGA since 2016, when Ariana Jutanugarden did it. Shot 65 today to finish at 20 under. Birdies on the front on 5 and 6 and 9, and then turned and birdied 12, 13, 16, and 18. Almost dunked it on 16 from the fairway with just an incredible iron shot. We didn't get a lot of coverage of this on the main network, but you could click over to the Cock and check it out. With a win today, not really, not too much. It's some grainy cameras. It did look like watching golf in like 1992 from the between the rain and the sort of 2 cameras set up or whatever. But at least we could sort of see it somehow or less. With the win today, she became the first American player to win 3 times before the 1st of April since Joanne Carter did it in 1980. Guys, we're buying a massive historic season from Nelly.
Cody, what do you think? I
Come
commented on our
Big.
Slack. It's some really interesting parallels between Scottie and Nelly, especially today, as each was going for their third straight tournament victory. I think there are larger comparisons you could draw between their two careers. It was a really fun, not juxtaposition, but a really fun kind of mirror of both of them today. Nelly gets it done. Cody, I mean, it's certified a big year. I mean, 3 wins in a calendar year is a very good year. We haven't hit April 1st yet. I think I actually went out on a walk before we sat down to record, and I was just kind of thinking, this time last year, I thought Nelly had a real opportunity at the Chevron to hunt down Lilia Vu and to really make a statement that, listen, I'm not only the best American golfer, I'm the best golfer in the world. Like, this is it starts with me. And she obviously didn't get it done last year. And Lilia went on and had a fantastic year of her own. She won 2 majors, she won 4 times. And I was really curious, like, okay, what, again, back to the Scottie conversation, like what does that do to Lilia's competitors? Nelly being top of mind. Like, I want to see how she reacts. Lilia took the top spot in the world. She was bona fide the best American female golfer. And Nelly's come out this year and just put the pedal down. And it's awesome to see. Of course, majors are the thing. And will Nelly win a major this year? Can she win a couple majors? That will take some precedent over the week-to-week stuff. But coming out of the gates and winning 3 straight times and 3 times in her first 4 starts like she's done, it's very impressive to me. And I love seeing it from Nelly. She said last week in her post-round interview, at Palos Verdes, wind was really up on the weekend. And she talked about how it made her hit golf shots more in like a creative, artistic way rather than a robotic, kind of grooved swing sort of way. And I thought for her to come out in bad conditions, rainy, sloppy in the desert, and shoot a 65 and come from behind and go win that tournament, it's just another big step for her to take. That shows me, like, hey, she's now learning and she's now capable to win a lot of different ways. It doesn't just have to be perfect conditions and runaway victories. And if that's the case, and she's really, elevating her game and even taking it to the next level, the rest of the tour better be on notice. This could be a monster year for Nelly, I think. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they definitely are already on notice, Big. And I just want to note, if people go back and listen to our LPGA specific episodes, Randy tried to press me on this at the beginning of the year. Everybody was doubting my take. I said this was going to be the year of Nelly. And they kind of laughed at me, and we took that personal. So now we're in this.
I can't wait to listen to the receipts.
Now we're in this with 3 wins already this year. We're going to wait and see, as we got a couple weeks away before the first major championship of the year, whatever, if we want to consider it that, or we just want to consider it a elevated event. Who knows what the Chevron is? But, I think the number one thing that Nelly struggled with last year was her putting. And she went through like 6 different putters. It wasn't good. And at the end of the year, she finally went and hired a different short game instructor. And since then, it is like a completely new Nelly, because she has all the confidence in the world. And why wouldn't you, when like you hit every single shot to inside 10 feet? And I can only imagine how easy that is. And then when you like tie in the fact of the conditions that she's been playing in, like this week, yesterday and today was crazy how that's not Arizona weather. And that was kind of the same thing that happened last Sunday out in Palos Verdes. She played in very similar, very windy, wet, damp. Today was obviously raining a lot harder than it was out in California, but she was wearing the same exact rain gear again. Maybe Nike can hook her up with something besides those same like burgundy pants and that black vest. But maybe it's
wine? Is it a wine color?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe she's like, no, these are bringing me good luck now.
I was just gonna say that they could be the good luck fans.
Yeah, I don't know. You can get some other colors. Do you know actually, you guys, do you know who has like a ton of colors and everything else available? You can change stuff up in.
I don't. Who's that, Cody?
That's Roback.
Oh
We
my
all know
gosh.
Roback.
We do.
Best fit, best feel, and guess what, guys? Roback's Azalea collection is back and better than ever. The designs are next level. The products are amazing. As always, it's safe to say we're just fired up for those really big events in golf. They go into the spring after seeing this collection. The performance polos are moisture wicking, have that great stretch while the collars are so crisp it doesn't lose its shape. They fit so much better than those old boxy polos. Simply put, the best designs paired with the best feeling polos. We all know about their performance hoodies. Big's got one on right now.
I do too.
Legit, the only hoodies that we wear. The fabric is so soft, we can't take it off. We wear them on the course or just in our everyday life. They're just that good. And I want to give a quick shout out too to their new Looper shorts I wore them this week. They're absolutely fantastic. They finally got belt loops on shorts. They can be worn both on and off the course. You can dress them up, dress them down. They're incredibly comfortable. Their signature free stride fabric ensures the shorts stay exactly where you need them to be. You can move in them, keep them up with every single swing. If you guys haven't already, it's time to load up on that Roback for both you, yourself, significant others, your buddies, whoever it is. You can use code NLU at roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order through the end of the week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and even more with code NLU. Spring golf just isn't the same without Roback.
Big when you're talking about Nelly hitting like golf shots. I was thinking about that river runs through it when like Paul becomes an artist, when he learns to shadow cast.
Yeah.
If we could get Nelly to just absolutely like embody her inner artist, oh my God, give me all of that. That would be incredible.
Well, let me ask you this, because hearing Cody talking about Nelly's putting woes, right? Back half of 2023. And again, another parallel with Scottie. Do you think, I just find it fascinating that Scottie's in a position now that is pretty unique in that there aren't many people in the world that can relate to like being probably the best ball striker, but struggling with the putter. And Nelly Korda is somebody that can relate to that exactly. I wonder, I don't know. This is stupid, but I wonder if like somebody having a conversation with Nelly would be at all instructive or insightful for him. Because I'm just trying to think, like, if I'm Scottie, the way I operate is like I would love to find somebody who has had that same exact experience, that I could pick their brain. Like, hey, what are the lows like? How did you what did you change? How did you go about trying to shift, how you think about it, and eventually, the putting itself. Like I said, though, fascinating parallels between the two of them.
Yeah. I would be really interested to know if, like, when they're away from the media, when they're having conversations with like their peers, if they're willing to be open up and be a little more vulnerable than they are with the press, because neither one of them are particularly like forthcoming when it comes to like their personal doubts. Like they kind of have that sheen of like, yeah, I'm fine. Like I'm good. Like I'm just working on what I'm working on. They don't really like to offer up that crack of vulnerability. And I understand it, because that's like what you want as a professional athlete. You want to feel like you're invincible. But amongst their peers, I bet it's probably a little different. So maybe next time when they're one of those Santa toy making ads or whatever for that other golf company, they could kind of, just pull each other aside a little bit and talk about how one overcame certain things and one didn't. So
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a great question, Randy. I'll say this, at least we have some examples of Scottie doing this, not necessarily like reaching across the aisle to an LPGA player, but like we have him and like Tiger and the divots video. There's another video that's out there of like Tiger teaching or watching Scottie hit like bunker shots and stuff like that. So, I think when they're at these shoots, they like talk through all this stuff. It would be seemingly the perfect person to ask, because it's crazy the similarities of where both their games are last year, and then Nelly obviously appearing to take that step forward.
Yeah, because there are tons of people that like struggle with their putting, right? But I think what's unique about a Scottie and Nelly conversation is like how freaking frustrating is it to finish, let's say, tied for 8th when you know you hit the ball way better than anybody else in the field that week, you know? And on the surface, yeah, you know, top 10, it's a good week. I should be somewhat happy. And just being able to be, KV, like you said, open and vulnerable about, like, this is driving me crazy. Like, that's God, that's where I would, you know,
that's why I think there's been a bit of a rise of like athletes talking to athletes podcasts, whatever. Like you see like Ryan Clark and gets like a lot of really good guests and stuff. It's like, I think athletes are just, they're willing to feel that way in front of other athletes. They don't feel like something they're going to say is going to be taken out of context as much, or they're
JJ and LeBron.
Yeah. And you know, I get that. I think it's hard sometimes to make yourself vulnerable in that way. Speaking of athletes who are great ball strikers and who've struggled with their putting, Lexi Thompson with a pretty good finish this week. Guys, you know, we've talked a lot about Lexi in the last year or so, whether she's sort of a part-time LPGA player or whether she's really wants to play professional golf anymore. What are we buying or selling Lexi after this performance? Pretty good performance, except for, you know, completely rinsed a drive when she was in contention there. I mean, that thing probably ended up 30 yards right into the lake. Big Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, Lexi's completely turned around, and she started this turnaround really at the beginning of August last year. I've talked about it again. She signed up and started going to the Dew Sweeper Academy, which I also am a former member of. But I think what they got working on is like her basics, and she put that into work last fall. She had an amazing run up to the Solheim Cup. She absolutely balled out at the Solheim Cup, did things that nobody expected her to do. She barely missed the cut in a damn PGA Tour event, which I think still like doesn't get the run that it deserves. And then really this year has had like a pretty decent year for not playing really a ton of golf, which she's known to. Like their season is just getting started, and that's kind of how she paces herself out here. But her T3 here, getting it to 17 under, being in contention, it started out, her round today just making a ton of birdies. And it's just one of those things where we always know there's going to be some sort of mental lapse with Lexi when you're coming down the stretch. And it just sucks for her that it was a complete block, drive outright. But really, I think outside of that, it was how she played 17, the whole following that and bogeying like pretty easy par 3 there, because that's really where I was like, oh, okay, well, we got a ways to go here still. But I'm a firm believer like Lexi is going to win this year. She's too damn good. She's back completely invested in the game. She has the right people around her, and it seems like, performance wise, everything is getting there. The issue always with Lexi is that like she needs like a 4-shot margin in order to win coming into the back 9, because she's going to give some away.
Mm-hmm. I would love it if the capper to Lexi's career was like, winning a US Open, right? Like finish with 2 majors, like, get a sort of a Tom Kite-esque like late US Open career in her, late 30s, whatever, or mid 30s. I think that would be awesome. I think that would be sort of a fun. I've never been like the hugest fan just of the golf swing, and sometimes like she can be a little bit prickly, but I also feel for her because I know like how hard it must have been to grow up like truly in the spotlight all the time from the age just 14 or whatever when she first. She played in the US Open when she was 12. It's just crazy to think about, and I think seeing her and feeling her pain like over several of those collapses has just been tough. And I hope there's a happy ending that comes along for her before it's all said and done here.
Real quick, just on Lexi, to underscore the drought, coming up in June will be 5 years she's won the LPGA Tour, which is hard to believe. This summer will be 10 years since her lone major on the LPGA Tour, so some significant droughts. Cody, you said it. It's fascinating. She has the game to win, but can she close it? And I just look at her week this week. She had made 2 birdies in her first round, or excuse me, 2 bogeys in her first round. Had no bogeys up until literally the tournament is in the balance. Her and Nelly, and Lexi steps up to the short par 4 16th and rinses the drive, and then 3 putts the 17th for a sloppy bogey on the next hole. And it's just like, oh man, I don't know. It's it's not really going to show up because of the margin of victory. You know, Nelly winning by 2 and Lexi being 3 shots back, but that tournament was. It could have gone any way there, the 15th, 16th hole with Lexi and Nelly. And so I just continue to think she's a fascinating person to watch golf and try to close a golf tournament. And I literally don't know what to expect. You tell me she's going to win 3 times in a major this year, and I could see that. And you could tell me, no, she's not going to win at all. And I'd be like, yeah, I could see that too. So no prognostication there, but it is just, whenever she's in contention, it's must-see television.
Solid finish from here in Naveed. LPGA Tour rookie shot 65-66 over the weekend to finish solo second. Maya Stark kind of faded a little bit during that back 9 with the kind of costly bogey, but solid finish for her, T3. And our friend Lauren Coughlin shot the round of the day on Sunday, shot 64 to finish T8. Was all the way up there towards T3, and then had a couple of people sneak past her at the end. But awesome job, Lauren, if you're out there listening.
Awesome work, Lauren. Do you know what? Okay, so number 1, certified mutter. LC gets that badge. All right. I think we need to readjust the logo placement, and I think we need to put like one of those gold star things on the middle of the Wayward Drive, and because she's now a certified mutter. Phenomenal showing from her. She's like 13th on the Solheim Cup list right now. This T8 is going to just continue to skyrocket her up these rankings. That's what we like to see. Young hitter making that Solheim Cup team. You talked about Maya. She struggled so far this year. We highlighted her play on the last LPGA podcast of like, what the hell's going on? Well, we figured out what's going on. And thanks to Grant Boone for highlighting this for us, is that her putter has been completely jacked up all summer.
Right. The loft was crazy, right?
Yeah.
When she went back, she spent her winter back in Sweden at home, and playing a ton of simulator golf and hitting off of mats out into snowfields and putting indoors on AstroTurf at the Academy. And something happened with all of her travel where the loft on her putter just got completely jacked, and she finally had it checked this week because she turned to her caddy. He's like, something crazy is going on. She finally got them to look at her putter, line loft completely jacked up, which makes you think of like the amount of travel that professional golfers do.
Yeah.
And they're putting their clubs in travel cases the exact same way that we are. And it doesn't matter. Like, obviously the baggage handlers for like NetJets or Wheels Up probably are handling it a little bit better than, Delta or United or heaven forbid, American Airlines. But I don't understand. How is this not routine for every single player to be like, show up to an event and be like, I don't know what happened. I left the tools of my trade in somebody else's hands for the last 12 hours. Please check to make sure that these are precise the way that I think that they should be. Like, I don't understand how that isn't part of like their standard operating procedure, because that's literally their livelihood. That's like a construction worker showing up and the handle of his hammer being broken, or somebody else going and like, the guy who came this week to fix my garage door shows up and like all the batteries for his cordless drills are dead. I'm like, you can't do that. Like, how is it? Like, it seems like such a big mental like error to do.
Seems like everybody got a TrackMan. Maybe they ought to have a line loft machine that kind of just
scratch that. We're not a TrackMan family. All right, we're a GC's quad family. Right?
Excuse me.
We're a Foresight family, KVV. How dare you do that?
Everybody has a Foresight they carry with them, or a GC quad, whoever, and carries around. Why don't they have like a line loft thing that they can? I don't know. Again, I'm speaking out of my no idea what it would take to bring
Teacher, we have a guy in class. He's not here today. His name's Tron Carter, and sometimes he likes to go down the leaderboard. Do you mind if I just do that real quick?
We're a pro go down the leaderboard lecture here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to highlight, Cody said Lauren is a mutter. I think Carlotta Saganda and Hyoju Kim, maybe not mutters. They struggled today out of that final group. Not their best golf. I don't know.
I think Carlotta was weather related. Carlotta's slow playing everybody. She could be the slowest golfer, men or women, I've ever seen in my life. It is painful. Thank God they weren't on TV, because it would have extended. Like, then the LPGA Tour would have had to go back and buy extra hours because that's how slow she is.
Allison Lee continuing to play pretty good golf. A top 10, tied for 8. Jennifer Kupcho shows up on the leaderboard. She had not had a good start to the year, so a good week for her. Sarah Schmelzel, that's one that we've highlighted on our LPGA podcast. She now has 4 consecutive top 10s, and is somebody that's really putting herself in a dark horse position for the Solheim Cup later this fall. So a name to keep an eye out there. Gabby Ruffles follows up a very good week last week at Palos Verdes with a tied for 13. She's leading the LPGA Rookie of the Year race so far. She's off to a great start in 2024. And then Lydia Ko, had been flirting, just needs that 1 point for induction into the LPGA Hall of Fame. Thought she might be making a weekend charge to get it. She fell off a little today, finished tied for 13th, but she's continuing to put herself in spots, and she's playing really good golf. So those were the big ones. A very, Seville Country Club. Cody, you have some experience there. Did not put up much of a fight. The cut line was 4 under through 2 rounds. You were going home packing. A lot of people thought there might be a 59, even a 58 this week, but the weather got a little nasty. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure, talking to some folks, it seems like Seville might be a one-off this year, and they might try to get this event back to Superstition Mountain next year. So something to keep an eye on.
I'm happy. Thanks to Ford for presenting and sponsoring an LPGA event. We need more, companies stepping out there. I actually heard this week big that, they got rid of the Dallas event. Volunteers, Texas, Volunteers of America, Texas event up at the Colony. That's gone. It's not on the schedule this year. But I guess they're close to a big new sponsor coming in for a Dallas event at a different club. It's not going to be up at the Colony. I think they're trying to get it at one of our fancy pants, expensive private clubs, which would be sweet. Be cool. So, yeah, we'll be on the lookout for that. But I'll say this: when they first announced this and Ford came on board, it was prior to the Thunderbirds being involved, and that's the charity component. And they did an awesome job this week. There's free admission out there, I think, for 2 days. Of course, military got in free, I think, every day or something like that. Seville is just, KVV, I know you don't listen to the LPGA podcast, but it's a member club. And like, even during college, I had to teach junior golf clinics basically back out there. And it was right at the transition, because I think they built this in 2000 or 2001. And it actually didn't go private because they didn't get the neighborhood built around it to like 2004, 2005. So it was still public, but it was very beginnings of like, hey, basically the neighborhood kids would come down. Here's a bunch of dumb kids from Arizona State. They're going to teach you how to play golf and get back out of here. But I remember going there and like shooting even par. I knew the girls were going to absolutely tear this place up. I just didn't think that like if you shot even par or 2 under any day this week, like you're so far behind. It was nuts to see like how good they actually are on a course that I'm very, very familiar with. And I know that's like how good they are, but it was striking and crazy to see. I think the Thunderbirds, because big, you brought up Superstition Mountain, which is hosted, it was called the Drive On 2 years ago. And they've always kind of struggled once they moved the founders out of Arizona to like find a permanent home, find the permanent sponsor. Somebody actually told me that because the Thunderbirds were coming on board, that there was a massive amount of pressure on that they were putting on TPC Sawgrass to try to get this event there, which I think number one could be like one of the most natural fitting things for it. I think it would be absolutely amazing for this event to go there. And I understand that they try. LPGA Tour likes having community courses and clubs like that that'll come out, and that's easy with not just like volunteers, but spectators and player housing and everything else like that. But again, we go back to this of like, how many L's does the LPGA Tour need to take with this great partnership that they have with the PGA Tour before they like give the dog the tiniest bit of bone? I know we're not like going to go to a complete Amsterdam session here, but they had bad weather. They knew they were going to have bad weather today. They had to move tee times up. There was split tee out in threesomes. And the fact that I'm sitting here while Golf Channel again is showing the dudes, I don't know I have yet to meet anybody who watches Champions Tour golf. And this isn't
No,
about
nobody does.
ratings or anything else like that, but it's also like, you know, isn't it supposed to be like women's month? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? Why is the LPGA treated this way? Where even with Peacock, they couldn't move Peacock up far enough to, like, you know, Nelly was already like on the 12th hole when she's making this like truly historic run to get her 3rd win of the year. Like, what needs to happen? And why are we still in this place where the fucking, excuse my language, but where the Champions Tour is getting priority over the LPGA Tour? Like, why is this still happening?
It's a great question, and I think is a good pivot here to the only time we will talk about the Champions Tour, I think, on this podcast, which is that Chris DiMarco went on the Subpar podcast with Colt Knost this week and kind of stepped in it a little bit, although he didn't really walk back these comments. I give him credit for that. He didn't really say much after him, but he said in sort of discussing the money in golf this year, said we're kind of hoping that the Live Tour buys the Champions Tour. This part, it seemed like he was mostly joking, but then he kind of pivoted and seemed pretty serious. He said, let's play for some real money out here. I mean, this is kind of a joke when we're getting $2 million. There were like 7 guys last week from TPC who made more than our purses. Cody, I know you did some investigative work and watched this video of him to make sure we were joking. I just saw the quotes originally when I was kind of annoyed by the whole thing. But what do we think of Chris DiMarco basically saying like, hey, where's our money on the Grandpa Tour?
Yeah, I would just say look around for a second and realize where you're at, because I think Chris DiMarco has been like compensated very well for where he's at and kind of what he is not only provided to the game but continues to provide to this game. And I'm at this point now where I'm sick of saying like the game of golf, that like everybody thinks that specifically men's professional golf for some reason is like the linchpin of golf as a whole.
Sure.
And that's just not what I see every time. Like, I go play golf and I watch a ton of golf and I watch this podcast. And I know Colt, you know, chirp back at a couple people of being like, oh yeah, people couldn't tell that this was a joke. Like, if it was a joke, why did he continue on with like very specific details, like describing not only the purses, but like the events of it, and then continued later on in the podcast and said, oh yeah, if Liv came around in like 2003, 2004, I definitely would have gone over. Well, that's fine. Like, I'm not here to say that like anybody going to Liv based off personal decisions or anything. Like, that's their decision. That's not the conversation like that we need to have right now. There's hundreds of other podcasts where you can go back and listen to those takes of those decisions. But like, he was pretty serious when he was talking about this specifically. And I would say like, dude, the fact that there is a Champions Tour when the main tour is like, you know, been in dire straits the last couple of years, it is good enough for you. It should be good enough for you anyway. Like, the Champions Tour was all started because the guys from back in the day got together and like, hey, you know, guys on the main tour are making a ton of money now and we need to figure out a way to be recouped. Yep. Well, we're so far past that now of like, yes, what are they actually doing? Who is watching this? Who is going to these events? Because I know I go to every professional golf event that's in like where I'm living at, and I'm not going up to watch Dallas. And no offense to Flasky, because I know that's his event, but like, I'm not going to go watch those dudes. Yep. So who is?
You don't usually say, when you're joking, you don't usually say it's kind of a joke. Like, if you're inserting that right word into it, you're probably, there's some seriousness in your take. Like, I'm always torn in these kind of things because I admire when professional athletes speak their mind. And I think it's sort of sometimes unfair when we then shit on them as soon as they say something sort of interesting. So I don't want to go too far over this, but so much of professional golf, I think, has kind of like lost the plot in terms of how they understand they're coming across to everyday people who play golf and, you know, might get to play twice a month or once a month, and they're desperate to kind of get out there and they're playing with discount balls and they're having a few beers and they don't really want to hear any more like 55-year-olds bitching about how like, man, $2 million purse is pretty shitty. Like, we need some more money of that. So if it was a joke, it wasn't told particularly well as a joke. Just to say that. The Hero Indian Open took place on the DP World Tour this weekend, and a sort of familiar name, Kita Nakajima, blew everyone kind of away. Ended up winning by 4 despite shooting 40 on the back 9. Nakajima spent 87 weeks.
It's a tough back 9 at that course.
You never know. I
didn't see the pictures.
I can't say that I watched it. Maybe he bounced it off the face of some of those foam bunkers. Shout out to my guy Gary.
Still won by 4 though.
Yeah. Shout out to my guy Gary Player for one of the world's most iconic designs. Nakajima spent 87 weeks as the world's #1 ranked amateur in the world. I don't know a ton about Kita. I know this certainly was dominated the amateur ranks for a while. Are we seeing any promise of this come of age? He's now 23 years old. He's got his DP World Tour membership and it's got some Corn Ferry status. Could we be seeing the next, Hideki? He was certainly the next phenom to come along kind of after Hideki at this time.
Man, shots fired at Takumi, but yeah, he's definitely in that lineage. Goes back. I think this is just one of those things of Japanese golf, and it's kind of just behind development of every other big country. I know we'll shout out the Asian Pacific AM, and Kita won that in the past and has had a phenomenal how many weeks was it KVV that he was #1 amateur in the world?
87. He was the #1 amateur in the world,
and that's the most all time. I think he clipped Rom, who's Rom's #2 on that list now. I think it just takes people. I couldn't imagine being some of these foreign-born players where they have to travel so far away from their home, their comfort, in order to choose the profession that they want to do. And I think some people, it just takes time. And hopefully that's it, because you want to talk about good things for golf, having another rock star Japanese player is really good for golf. And he is right up there. It's taken time. I don't think people expected it to take this long, but it's been a ton of change in the Asian Tour and everything else like that. I think it's awesome that finally got his DP World Tour first victory there. And then, if he's going to be on the PGA Tour, it's just only going to be a matter of time, but he wins so much. It's crazy.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Liv is back next week. They're playing in Miami, so their Masters prep will be at Trump National Doral.
Watch out for the bed bugs. That's all I got. All right. I once got bed bugs at Trump Doral. I just hope if people are staying, I think it was the player wing. So again, shout out to our guy.
Keep your podcast, keep your politics out of my podcast.
This is a health and safety message. If I have to put a banner on this or something like that, watch out for the bed bugs.
Kind of a slow news week, but Bryson made some news this week on golf Twitter by going out and on his own website, something that wasn't like he was entrapped to do this, played with a golf ball from sort of the, I guess what we'll eventually call the rollback era, but I think it was a 2007 Nike golf ball, and sort of decided he's going to play 9 holes with this just to sort of show what rollback golf ball would like. And spoiler, he did not like it. He did not really appreciate it when hitting it off the heel made it only go 305 yards as opposed to 340. I don't know if you guys caught any of this, but it did put a smile on my face. Bryson wasn't entirely negative. He did sort of have some nuanced takes, but mostly he was sort of pouting and saying that, sort of just is really stinky that he can't just absolutely mash on the golf ball and hit at 350, which, gave me hope. Some people maybe would see this and be like, you know what, maybe I am pro rollback. Big, did you get a chance to catch any of this?
This is what I say, teacher. I did not do this portion of the homework.
Watch this.
No,
I'll take over for you, Big. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I watched the video and I thought it was fascinating, KVV. I was right there with you. I think the thing that he was mostly shocked by was how the guidance that was put out by the USGA about potential rollback ball, which he wasn't using, nobody knows what the proposed rollback ball is going to be. This is just the best guess at whoever gave him the data, something that could match that. But he thought, the USGA says it's going to be a 5 to 10% reduction in overall distance. And Bryson, of course, out there mashing it at Dallas National, where it's they're on perfect zoysia grass, everything's teed up for him. He's seeing a 10 to 15% reduction. So he, of course, didn't like that. But what I thought was most fascinating is not so much the driver stuff, but when he was hitting like his irons and then really his wedges. He was complaining a lot through it about different spins, different spin rates, and he had his GC quad out there with him the whole time. And like a couple times he's hitting his normal left dash versus what the the ball that he was playing with, that Nike one, and just kind of showcasing the numbers of it. So I thought it was fascinating. I think that's he obviously doesn't like it because he wants the ball to go further and do cool shit with it. But I was like, yeah, that's actually like exactly what we're looking for. Outside of like you hit it offline, I actually kind of want it to spin more, man. Like you're saying that it was too much. I actually think you can turn it up a little bit more, because if you're hitting it that like bad, not at all close to the center of the club face, like you shouldn't be rewarded for that.
And just to be clear, with the Nike One Tour, this is Will Knight's documented this from the Fried Egg. He was hitting the ball with like 187-mile ball speed, and it was going 315 yards. So like all this crying about how, we're not going to see the ball go, it's going to be 260-yard drives. It is not going to be that. Like they're still going to be able to hit it over 300. It's just that the amount of people who are going to be able to do that are going to be fewer. And so honestly, like Bryson ought to lean into this and be like, yo, I'm going to be one of only like 7 guys on the thing who can still hit this 100 to 310 yards carry. Sign me up for that, because I would like to live in a world where Bryson was winning more majors. And I kind of do think that it would increase the talent gap between guys like Bryson and Rory and guys who are not as good, because I do think Bryson will probably figure out how to hit it in the middle of the face more often, but he doesn't have to do that right now. He can just absolutely wail on it and hit it anywhere all over the face, and it will go forever.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think with time, like he'll realize that this is actually a benefit to him specifically. Like, and that's not because like, he's just a dude out there wailing on it. Like he hits the vast majority of his drives, like Bryson's catching them out of the center of the club face. It's those squirrely ones when he actually tries to like gear down on it and like absolutely swing out of his shorts that get all, they end up going all over the place. Because he should be rewarded for the skill that he has. And that's like through both working on his swing, but also like mastering his numbers and getting like his butt in the gym and like bulking season and then non-bulking season and figuring out his gut health. And I love the fact that there's an AG1 commercial sprinkled in there as well. And him like being like, yeah, I used to take horrible care of my body, but now I'm getting these greens in my life and we're on the straight and narrow. But this is a benefit to Bryson first and foremost. And he will realize that over time. And these guys are like, they're the best golfers in the world. Give them a couple days, and with the technology that we have from monitors and everything else, they're gonna get it figured out.
One last news item here this week: the USGA announced the U.S. National Junior Team, which mostly like these are names who might be big deals someday, but right now are just kind of sort of anonymous. But I love that we are coming into the era now where kids who have like sweet names of like people who grew up in the 90s are now come. So there's a kid named Blades on the U.S. Junior National Team. There's a
Jordan's gonna be so upset at you that you don't know who Blades Brown is.
That's
actually criminal.
I've heard of Blades Brown. There's a girl named Asterisk. There's a Riley.
With Asterisk she just won a massive amateur tournament, like the precursor to Anwat last weekend.
These are great. I'm sure that Jordan is going to write some amazing stuff and fill me in on all of this. I'm sure she's smiling behind the scenes right now, listening to me talk about Emery Shorts, EMERIE. As a parent,
hold on.
Yes.
Do you know she is a cousin of friend of the program, Lane Charts?
Yeah. I did not know that at all.
Yeah.
Wow. Hand to God. Incredible. Yeah. Wow. Shout out Lane. That's his second cousin.
Yeah. Well, okay. I know Gianna Clemente is great. Shyla Brown, I think I've heard of. So some big names on here. Some people who are, I'm sure, going to be studs of the future.
They're studs now, especially on the women's team. This is awesome for the USGA. I think we've been waiting and saying we need a development team for a long time. It's we're trying to match other nations that are around us. When you talk about like specifically on the women's, and we could even go the men's team, like the Swedish national team is the example for the rest of the world. And if America and the USGA could ever get close to that, and that's what the USA development team is going to be like, we're going to be sitting in a really, really good spot.
Jordan is saying in the chat that I'm canceled. I'm not sure if you can cancel the teacher, but perhaps you can. All right, guys, I want to close here. I gave you some homework this weekend. NCAA tournament time, always one of our favorite times of the year. But it got me thinking, like watching some of these squads gel, both on the men's and women's sides. If you were going to throw together a basketball team made up of golfers, now I'm not talking about like whether the golfers are good at basketball, but just, you know, kind of based on vibes, based on personality. What would you do? Who would make your squad? Who would coach your squad? This would be a very fun exercise to sort of to talk about who you'd want filling buckets, taking charges for you. Since this was my idea, I'm happy to go first, or I can go last if someone would like to go here. But we're going to basically put together our own squads of who we would take on the world with.
I think our designated basketball guy, Big, the coach. Come on, Coach Landis.
Well, I know. I think we kind of go position by position.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. So let's start at. I assume we all kind of follow the traditional 5 spots in basketball. KVV, why don't you tell us your point guard?
Yeah. I went with Kurt Kitayama. I need a dog running my squad, Randy. I mean, I need someone who's going to just slap the floor, get the crowd into it, pop his jersey with the student section when he takes a charge. This guy, you know, Kurt actually did used to hoop way back in Chico. And he went by the name Quadzilla because he had, you know, those big ass legs.
That's awesome.
You know, look, he's only 5'7", so we might get hurt on some switches. Some people might be shooting over us, but I feel like I want a scrappy guy who's going to lead us and push the ball up the floor.
KVV, that's such a good opening pick. I kind of went a lot of the same attributes that I went to. Somebody who absolutely holds her own, but seems to have a good eye on everything that's going on. Doesn't care what really is going on around her. Is just solely focused. I already said her, and that's going to be my, you know, I would say my point guard, my number 1 guard on the court, controlling my offense and defense, just scrappy. You name it, she's all over the place. Charlie Hall.
Sure, I like that. Okay, like some attitude, like some big FU to people. Yeah,
100%.
Maybe pushing people after a jump ball situation. Yeah. Wonderful. Big. Who you got? Who you got running point?
Well, mine's recency bias, but I was looking for that, you know, the hateable Duke point guard mold, and give me Alejandro Tosti. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that will get under the opposing team's skin, will not be afraid of playing in the big gyms all across America. I think it's Alejandro. Would love to put the ball in his hands.
I thought about that late this afternoon Sunday, and I really kind of just felt like I couldn't quite go there just yet. But I'm glad that you did, because I really want to see him like throw a punch here and there, like and maybe like reverse jam. Because the dude, if he can hit it 380, he could get up there and like absolutely just dunk over the top of someone like John Starks used to do. Cody, how about you start us off on this one? Who's your shooting guard?
Yeah, my shooting guard. I just needed somebody that was clutch. And today, you know, watching Scottie, I know he used to hoop back in his day at whatever private Jesuit school he went to in the Northlands of Dallas, Texas. He just wasn't it. He wasn't clutch. I need somebody who's going to line up. And, you know, we're thinking about these comparables all the time to the big cat. And, you know, I just need a guy that you're going to pass it to, and he's going to drain that rock, man. And that's Tiger Woods.
Ooh, like it. Okay. Maybe some knee trouble. Probably not going to be able to give you 40 minutes, but
we're pushing the pace on Cody's team.
You said this is make believe, man. Come on. I can take Tiger in his prime.
Okay. Well, even then, like, the dude probably ran 25 miles in a marathon in army boots before the game. So you just need to keep that in mind as your factor. I mean, you know, this is your squad, so I don't want to do it. Big, who you got at the shooting guard? I like veteran leadership of Tiger there. I don't want to shit on Cody. I'm sorry.
Well, I got to see this guy's shot up close and personal several years back. Smooth jumper, a little bit of a diva, you know, as your star kind of 2 guards somewhat tend to be, I guess. But isn't afraid of the big moment, is not afraid of the big moment, has missed as many times as he's made when the game's on the line. And that's Mr. Phil Mickelson. We're gonna get him the ball at his spots, and we're gonna have that sweet righty jumper just lacing the net.
Okay. Just watch out for point shaving. That's all I'm saying. I went with Min Woo Lee. here as my shooting guard here. I'm looking for a guy who's just going to fill up the stat sheet. I mean, I want him to get 25 shots a game. I don't care if he's going 10 for 25 some nights, because there are going to be some nights where it's tough.
for sure.
But some nights he's going to get me 30 and 10. So I'm thinking like kind of Klay Thompson before the injury is just like firing up shots, no conscience, like absolutely just taunting the crowd.
Yo, Minwoo, stop taking half quarters, dog.
No, but look, on our squad, he's got the green light from anywhere.
Minwoo strikes me. Minwoo as a basketball player strikes me as exactly the type of guy that can shoot you into games and can shoot you out of games.
Oh, 100%.
And those are sometimes my favorite players.
Exactly. I want the squad to be entertaining, Big. So that's why I decided to go there. Big, you got a small forward for us there?
I do. This is a hooper. I went with true basketball skill here. 6'1" out of Kansas, played a little college ball. Gary Woodland. I think he's prototypical small forward. You know, he can probably guard 4 positions. We can post them against some smaller guards if we get the correct matchup. I like Gary's game, and I think he's a great small forward for me.
Love that. All right, Cody. This is where here I went with Nelly Korda. I'm a big anti-analytics guy, but I want like a catch and shoot mid-range player. I'm bringing back the mid-range game. I'm tired of this like just layups or threes. I think Nelly would be like a Porzingis type. You know, I don't need her to bang down low. I need her to like elegantly like just spot up and catch and splash and shots. I don't even need double digits and rebounds. Okay, that's not what I'm expecting for her. I want like a graceful fadeaway, maybe like a baby hook that she catches down low. Like I think she could get me 19, 20 points between her and Minwoo. Like she's going to be the anti-Minwoo. She's going to shoot 60% from the field and just be a very elegant up and down the court kind of player.
Well, you brought up Tiger and injury concerns. I just worry that Nelly up there, you know, in that high post, she might get beat up a little bit.
She might. Look, that's why, as I'll tell you my next pick here in a second after you get.
I was going to say, KDD better have some beef here at the 4 and 5 spots.
I
got some mouses in the house, KDD.
Yeah, I know. Listen, we're some small ball here.
I went, you know, my small forward, somebody who's used to being in the blocks, doing the hard work. He's kind of left out of a lot of teams, but he's got the heart of a lion. He's always working his absolute tail off. And, you know, he might be the only person who's played in like pickup basketball games with MJ, Brady. He's a proud Nike guy. He's just rocking his dunks all over the place. And that's Eric Keegan, man.
Oh, yeah. That's a good pick. That's a good pick for there. I feel like
I don't hate that pick.
Truly work hard. He would have a lot of pride. A lot of team.
He would. Yeah. And that's why you know, I don't know if we're picking 5 or if we have somebody coming off the bench, but I also have his caddy Pepsi on the bench just in case something happens and he needs to go out and fuck somebody up.
God, like an inter squad game where Keegan like just dunked over Justin Thomas and like give him an extra long stare would be absolutely my
Pepsi would be in the arena for sure.
All right. I heard the criticism about my lack of beef down low. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm putting Shane Lowry in the block down here. He's gonna be my guy who I don't even need double-digit points here. I need him to bang, to throw some elbows. He's gonna get me 12 rebounds and use all 6 fouls throughout the day. I thought about maybe Kokrak here, but I just don't feel like he'd work as hard as Lowry. Bryson was also a contender, but you know, chemistry issues. And I love the idea of Shane here. Just absolutely knocking heads over and maybe getting a few bloody cuts on his face here and there and just intimidating the shit out of people.
Shane, we just need you setting screens on offense. Yeah. Don't worry about anything else. Just go hit some people.
He'll get some garbage points. He'll get some putbacks here and there, but that's not what I need. All right. So I need an enforcer. I need someone to keep the thugs off of Nelly so she can do work down there. All right, Cody, who you got at power forward?
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Kev. I kind of, again, very similar. I think I went down and was thinking really hard, like, who do I need in that position? I need somebody that can get their elbows out there. They can still be light on their feet, definitely hold their own. But also, you know, I like my guys. If we got to play dirty, we're going to play dirty. All right. And if we're going to need to throw some elbows, do some hip checking, stuff like that, we're not afraid of skirting the rules. All right. And that's why I brought in the big Fijian. VJ is going to be down there for me.
Ooh,
okay.
I like that. Yeah. What would he be, kind of a scorer, or would he just be kind of a tough guy?
Whatever we need of him that night. All right. If there's potential allegations going on, we need him to take somebody out. We need him to play a hard D. We got that. All right. He's just kind of that guy. He's our big dude down there.
I love that. Big, who you got at power forward?
I have 6'3" Scottie Scheffler. Okay. You know, I think he's athletic. There's footwork there. I think there's a solid base. Listen, he's going to be an undersized power forward. We know that. But I think we can get him in the block. We can isolate him. We can count on that footwork and athleticism to hopefully get us some buckets around the rim. I like his body. I think he can. I think he can rebound on the defensive end. I think he can guard the 4 position. I feel good about Scottie.
I like that. I actually had Scottie as my pick at center, so I'm going to go ahead and switch up and take my backup pick here, and I'm gonna put Dustin Johnson at center. I think big laconic guy. Don't need to get a lot of effort, like full out going on the court, but I just need him to kind of score in his spots. I need him to be like a lot of centers in the league today. They're not like the scream in your face, like dunk all over you. They're kind of more the chill dudes, the Jokic's and such, and Embiid's. So I will say this about Scottie. Have you ever seen that video of Scottie playing pickleball? It's unbelievable, like how good his hand-eye coordination is. But like, if you think about like, why doesn't that translate to putting? Like Shaq was the same way. Like Shaq is like a truly gifted athlete, right? I remember there'd be like occasional bouts where Shaq would he'd make like 9 of 11 free throws in a game, and everybody like, oh, Shaq's got this free throw thing figured out. That's to me feels like Scottie right now. It's like everyone's like, oh yeah, he's the mallet. He's like totally fine. He's a great player. He's totally gonna be putting now. No, man, like it's that kind of stuff just like stays with you forever. So like there's a little bit of a parallel to that. So I'll a nod to Scheffler, but I'll put DJ in and as a nod to the Live gang to sort of have a fully realized squad there. All right, who got at center there, Big?
My center, listen, he's raw. And candidly, I have no idea if he plays basketball. But he's somewhat young, and you can't teach height. So I'm going with my man from Georgia Tech, the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech, Christo Lamprecht. Listen, he's 6'8", he's 220. I think he's got a frame to put on another 20 to 30 pounds easily. If we can teach him an outside shot, I think he's a nightmare spacing ball on offense, good size to guard the ball on defense. And honestly, you know, we want him away from the basket to give Scottie an opportunity to get down there and use his footwork and creativity in the post. So I'm going with my guy, Christo.
Love that. Cody, who do you got in the 5?
Yeah, it was, man, there's a lot of directions that I was going to go here. I thought about DJ. I thought that would have been too obvious. But we know, you know, he's hoops. He can get it done. There's kind of a different direction I was going to for a second. I thought I was going to go with the big Swede, Anna Norquist, but you know, she kind of has the yips every once in a while. Played, you know, definitely free throw percentages would have been a concern there. I think
you see her like one of those like foreign centers that used to play in the league in the 90s, like kind of not quite fully formed. Basketball was still catching up, but they had some game like that.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. You know, height was a concern. I thought about putting the big golfer in there, but Bryson, you know, he would, again, heart would have been there. We just height just didn't have it. And that's where I ended up going my next one. We're still kind of on the shortest side for a center, but we're coming at like 6'3", close to 6'4", weighing 15 stones. And that's Ernie Els. I think that he would absolutely control. You know, he'd be a rebound machine. He'd be able to ditch it out. He's a big team guy. You know, there's all these stories of him on his jet flying around everywhere, just pounding beers with the boys. He would have looked out for them. The biggest offender of golf in South Africa. You know, I think he would have just rounded out that squad for me.
That's great.
Ernie and BJ is a formidable front court, Cody. That's no joke.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we didn't put a timeline on this because otherwise you'd have some kind of old squad. But if these are all back in their prime, then I think you're golden. I should maybe thought, you know,
guys,
about, I don't know.
My point guard at the beginning was Lee Trevino. You know, I thought he was going to be he's kind of slick. He'd be able to get it out there, be fast talking, the king of shit talking. You know, we would have destroyed everybody just like mentally.
That's true.
Cody's team is built to play in the NBA court, but the short
Yep.
courts that run across the main courts. That's what Cody's team is built for. Tiger, VA. We don't need to be getting up and down much.
Guys, for coaching, I couldn't resist going with Phil Mickelson here. You know, and I think the current Phil Mickelson, you know, as we're willing to choose eras, like he could totally pull off the Pat Riley thing with the slick back gelled hair, master tactician, would be able to kind of work both the media and the refs. You know, might get suspended from the league for various like things here and there, but he's going to have these guys ready to play. He's going to get the best out of some of them. I think he's going to be working like, you know, Shane every night to tell him like, look, I don't need points from you, big guy. I just need rebounds. All right. And he's going to get the best out of Nelly. So Phil's my coach.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick. My coach, I went with a guy, you know, we're I think in the coach position, we're looking to set the tone, right? We're day after day, who's showing up, who's got, I like coaches with discipline in their own lives. I think, you know, it allows them to come from a place of authenticity, lets guys buy in, men and women. So I'm going with Scott Stallings because listen, basketball is an ultra physical sport. You got to be in peak shape, and nobody has displayed the amount of discipline and work ethic that Scott Stallings has shown over the last several years, not only to transform his own body, his own figure, his own mindset, but that's what I'm looking for him to give to my team.
Shout out to hard work pays off. That's such a good pick there. You know where I was going? I was looking at somebody who's going to like, you know, I got some characters on this squad. So I need somebody who's like been in these backdoor meetings.
If you say like Ben Hogan, I'm going to just revolt.
No. And like can provide cover for everybody. I think, you know, somebody who's like been there, but hasn't been like the guy yet, but has been in charge of developing a lot of things. You know, my coach, he's basically just going to provide top cover to make sure that the guys can and gals, they can do what they want, whatever we got to do to get them, you know, the best performance that we possibly can out there. And that's a gentleman by the name of Ty Votah. Right. And if people don't know who Ty Votah is, he used to be at one point in time commissioner of the LPGA Tour, and then it kind of got run into the ground. Maybe that could be under his direction, but he looked out for everybody around him. After that, he came over to the PGA Tour, and I think he probably is a person who holds all of the secrets for everything that Fincham and you know anything that's happened there. He has
where the bodies are buried. Yeah,
but ultimately, he's looking out for everybody. He's like, hey, as long as I'm still getting my paycheck, we're good, guys. And we just got to keep this thing going. So hopefully he brings that same thing to the squad that we've assembled.
We actually had drinks with Ty Votah that one night.
We did.
At Graham McDowell's place.
Yeah.
And he and I talked about Jason Isbell. Apparently, Ty Votah, big Jason Isbell fan. So we got to sort of break bread over that. Any honorable mentions you want to throw out? Any six men, six gals that were helpful to the squad?
I had one. Cody, you want to go or you want me to go?
No, you go ahead, Biggie.
Listen, I think six man. What's the most important job, right? You're looking for a boost of energy when that person enters the game. Okay. And I saw something last year out of this woman, the most heart, the most tenacity, somebody that will absolutely run through a brick wall. And that's Caroline Headwall.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say
she is my sixth man, and I could not be happier with that decision. I'm building my team around Caroline. I know she's not in the starting lineup, but I'm building it around Caroline.
She's the heart and soul of the team. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cody, any six person or honorable mention you want to throw out?
Yeah, I guess I had mentioned already that Bryson potentially could be vying for a spot. Of course, the big sweet Anna, she's in there looking for something. But ultimately, I got a lot of elderly statesmen, and I knew when I was talking about my bigs, they might get banged up, and I think that's why I'm thinking about Sepp Straka. You know, if I need some extra beef down there, I think he's going to be able to come in, be a great sub when the other bigs get, banged up. He could be my guy.
I love that. I'm going to throw out, I want Suzanne Pedersen on my squad. Going to come in and throw some elbows, going to, get me 10, 15 points off the bench, start a fight, use up her
Oh, yeah.
fouls. Like she's gonna be taken off in a stretcher if she's coming off in a do or die game. So absolutely ready to go to war with her.
I'll say this: her
And
and
as a
her and
coach.
Phil Mickelson would either
Yeah.
be an unstoppable combination of like player coach,
Yes.
or it would be the most toxic team environment.
If Phil gets
that
suspended or
ever
fired
created.
or whatever, if I need to go a different direction, Suzanne can sort of step into that player coach that role. So I feel like we're good there. Did you guys know that James Hart Duprez is 6'10"? I had no idea. The European Tour player. So I thought about him at center, but I feel like I didn't really know enough about him to come depend on him for big minutes.
Yeah, did I Google tall golfers? Yeah, I did. I did run across him.
Well, this was a very fun exercise. Perhaps as the tournament goes on, maybe we'll punt it to the boys next week if they want to try to put together their own squads, because I very much enjoyed this and very much enjoyed this Sunday evening with you boys. Thank you very much for watching the golf with me, and thank you guys at home for tuning in and listening for us. Cody, any parting words there?
Yeah, we got a big week coming up, KVV. I'm finally, I'm excited for like these big tournaments to actually start. And it feels like this is the week where we're finally getting ready for doing that. People be on the lookout this week. This podcast right here, I know you and Solly did an awesome historical Masters deep dive. Randy, I, and our own Jordan Perez, we're going to do a little ANWA. We'll get into that later. And LPGA match plays on their way back to Shadow Creek, which I think could be like probably the second best event that the LPGA Tour puts on every year outside of Founders, and a new place in the calendar.
New format
too. We're going to get all into that. We talked about it on the last podcast though. But so we got Masters historical, we got ANWA match play preview, all leading up into a big ANWA week. We're going to have a written piece. What did Jordan write for us?
Jordan did a really good profile of Amari Avery, who, some people might know if they follow the amateur game from how much she's played great at USC and in some of the Curtis Cups, and she finished 4th at ANWA 2 years ago. But also you might know her from her time way back when Netflix was doing a documentary called The Short Game, which is like the best way to get your kids into golf is to plop them down in front of and watch like kids their own age like play golf. So a lot of times dads ask me like, how did you get your daughter into golf? I'm like, yeah, dude, we just watched The Short Game like 5 times and now she watches it all the time on herself still. So I'm really proud of Jordan for this profile. It's going to be pretty awesome. I think that we'll get that out on Tuesday. So look forward to that. I did a really fun Perfect Club that's coming up about Tin Cup, and I had 2 very fun guests with me, 3 very fun guests actually, but the sort of the most interesting ones were Adam and Jessica Hadwin joined us to talk about Tin Cup, which I thought was really great. Jessica was nice enough. I reached out to her on Twitter because I thought, you know what, it'd be one thing, it'd be really cool to have a tour pro talk about what they like about Tin Cup, but to have a tour wife who talks a lot about like being a tour wife, talk about the Rene Russo character would be really fun. And they were great. Adam was so insightful. Jessica was awesome. And then my friend Kyle Banduho wrote a book that's coming out called Sports with Balls. He joined us for the podcast too. It's all about movies with balls. Excuse me, I messed that up. It's all about like sports movies. So if you've ever wanted to know the backstory for Bull Durham or Tin Cup or Happy Gilmore and stuff, all those things are covered. So he had some really great insights into Tin Cup. So big week for us, and then spilling obviously into Masters. So thank you.
We did a real cool Nest, our monthly Nest podcast last week too, and we actually, it was the first time that we did live trivia. I want to thank Casey for coming on and kind of arranging that, while sweet baby Neil is of course out of office with his sweet baby, and we're just trying to make sure everything continues while the dads are seemingly away in Scotland living their best life. So that, and for everybody who continues to ask about Solly's performance at the Gasparilla this year,
that's coming up.
That film room, I have the final copy of it. We're going through final reviews right now. We're going to get it posted prior to the Masters, so be on the lookout for that. But that's everything we got.
If you missed it, DJ also played 10 of Wisconsin's top public courses in about 36 hours.
Crazy.
Recently did a video with that, and so you can check that out on our YouTube channel. and expect lots of more of that to come. We have some fun stuff in the tank that's coming out soon. So thank you all. Appreciate you boys always for spending this time with me, and we'll guys see you all next week.
Cheers.
Crack on.